So hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, which is Social Market Research, Designing a Study Exploring Current Events. So this webinar is being recorded and I'll be sending out the recording afterwards. And there's also going to be a chance for a Q&A towards the end of the webinar. So if you've got any questions as I go through, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box and I'll be happy to answer those towards the end. So today's really going to be focused on how you can use market research to really give you some consumer insights, understand who your target market is, and think about if you're looking at current events or something that's really trending, find out what your consumers feel about that. And you can really use it to build up your brand voice. So I'll be going through a lot of examples, things like social media and stuff like that, and how brands use research to communicate with their consumer and open a conversation about things. It gives your brand something a bit more different than just trying to sell them products. So to go through the agenda, I'll be looking at what social market research actually is. What do I mean? And how companies are using social market research as well in their advertising and things like that, like I said, in their social media. I'll share some case studies of some market research I've conducted based on things that are trending or current events, how that I can present the results for that, and also how you can utilize that data as well. So just to introduce myself first, I am Carys and I'm the Regulatory Director at Ayton Global Research. So Ayton Global Research are a consumer research company. Generally, we test a lot of products and things like that. But obviously, we have this great panel of global volunteers. So in a really good position to ask them, all of these market research questions and get this insight from them. We've got a really diverse panel, so that really helps us do that. But I'm really focused generally on the regulatory side. So, usually for things like claim substantiation, looking at how you can use your data, how we can best design studies and questionnaires to make sure they're regulatory compliant. But certainly when it comes to things like market research, much more to do with making sure the research is ethical and that the data can be used, properly to be able to communicate with your consumers. So just a brief introduction of what social market research is. So obviously it's looking at the behavior or, the thoughts and the opinions, as I said, of a particular target market. So we're looking at the opinions, needs, attitudes, and motivations. I've said of a group or groups of people because it can be a really good way to identify who your key consumer is as well. So for example, if we were looking at putting out some research in different countries, you could see the different thoughts and opinions of people in different countries, maybe different age groups, maybe people that use your brand already, people that don't. So there's a lot of interesting insight you can get from all these different groups of people as well. And it also helps you pinpoint. So as it says there, pinpoint your target market as well. So by asking all these different people, all these different questions, it might actually help you kind of go, actually, this really has captured this kind of group of people that we know are really key consumers. So we're going to focus on targeting our marketing towards them, basically. I thought this was quite a good kind of insight from this blog I read. So I'll just read it out. So it's basically to say, for a business to succeed in the information age, so what we are now, obviously, like I said, communicating through social media, things like that, it is necessary to fully understand the target market. Customers are always looking to support businesses that are conveying a message or aiming for a socially conscious goal. Connecting with potential customers on social media platforms is probably the smartest move that any business can make, inspiring communication whilst collecting valuable behavioral data. So like I said, it's about knowing what your voice is and knowing what you're giving towards your customer, but also gathering their information as well and making sure that you can sell the right products to the right people. So like the way I like saying is kind of opening a conversation. You're really giving them something about you and who your brand is, and they're kind of feeding back with who they are. And it's a fantastic way of making sure you can make more sales really and grow your brand. So I just want to give some examples of different organizations that I've seen from all sort of different walks of the industry or different industries as well. and how they're able to use social market research to convey their messaging, but also to establish, what they're trying to do as a company. So, for example, charities, they're obviously looking to raise money for their charity. So market research is a fantastic way to do this. By giving facts and figures, you're really able to convey why your message is so important and why people need to be interested. So there's a really interesting charity, which is from the founders of beauty banks, Joe Jones and Sally Hughes. And their campaign is "The Kids Are Not All Right." And this is all about hygiene shaming in schools. So they've conducted research and got these really amazing statistics, which 44% of teachers have witnessed children being bullied because of hygiene shaming, 39% have witnessed children's mental health suffer due to hygiene shaming, and 38% of teachers have offered pupils hygiene items such as deodorant and toothpaste. And those figures are all quite shockingly high, I think, in terms of what kind of a niche subject it is. So it's a really, really fantastic way for them to get some, like I said, get this message out there that this is a really important issue that's affecting a lot of people. And I just thought this was a great way of using that data. Also, organizations like accreditations are also able to use data to inspire people to use their, get their products accredited with them. So one is the Soil Association. And they conducted a really big kind of market research survey with a whole report, which goes into lots of different aspects about consumers' views on kind of the messages they do. So things like products being sustainable, organic, that kind of thing. And basically encouraging people to get their accreditation so that the consumers will purchase their products, essentially. So a couple of things that they pulled out is that half of consumers said the COVID-19 pandemic made them more likely to buy organic beauty and well-being products. And the other one was specifically about their logo, about their accreditation, which is just over 2 in 5, 42% of those surveyed agree that looking for certification logos helped them choose sustainable beauty and well-being products. So again, this is all about making sure people use them to get accredited by them, because I don't know if anyone works in the kind of industry for natural organic products. At the moment, there's not a regulation to say you have to be accredited. So it's really kind of saying, okay, you might not have to, but it is a huge kind of bonus for your brand if your consumers see this accreditation. So I thought it was a really fantastic way, again, of using this data. Other things are just general consumer insights and how people use them in the kind of podcasts and things like that. So this one was on a podcast. So the kind of insight was 92% of people trust recommendations from friends and family over any type of advertising. And this was on the Outspoken Beauty podcast, which was looking at how the pandemic has impacted consumer buying habits and the power of peer-to-peer marketing. So they've kind of put in a couple of other things that were discussed as well. So 9 out of 10 people said they were more likely to buy a beauty product that had positive reviews, and 68% people said they would not click on a product if there was negative reviews. So this is kind of a general industry research. Like I said, this is all on the podcast, but it's just really great insight there. And it's something you can share as well. It doesn't have to be just about directing your marketing at consumers. It might be this kind of directing your marketing at the industry. And finding out things that, you can say, we're doing this, and I think everyone should be doing it, or something like that. And yeah, it's just really interesting, again, a way of getting that kind of research. So this one really led me quite nicely into a case study that I've conducted, kind of a similar thing when we're looking at consumer insights generally for the cosmetics industry, and looking at things that are trending. So we were looking at the kind of idea of brand trust and authenticity. These were words that this was conducted last year, still being kind of, you hear these words a lot now, but obviously last year it was quite a big thing as well. And we had a lot of brands talking about being authentic and all this kind of thing. But we kind of wondered, what does that actually mean to a consumer? You hear this term authentic a lot, but that, what does that mean? What's the actual meaning behind it? We're also looking at where consumers research and follow brands. So if they are looking at authenticity, where do they want to see that these brands are authentic? Because it's all very well and good to say, yeah, we're really authentic, really trustworthy, but how are you communicating that to your consumer? And where's best to do that as well? So to kind of give you an outline of the study, we've we surveyed 209 people in the UK. So obviously for this one, we were looking particularly at the UK. kind of keeping it a relatively small market research, kind of get some initial data basically. So we wanted to make sure people regularly purchased cosmetics. It wouldn't have been very helpful to us if they were looking, didn't really buy cosmetics or anything like that. We did a bit of an age and gender split. So we had 36% male, 64% female, just because we found that a lot more females were purchasing cosmetics in the UK. And we did a really even age split across sort of different age groups. So we had 20% from 18 to 25 and so on up until 70 years old. Just to give us a really good reflection of kind of all different age groups. We didn't want to just gather data from one specific group. And it also meant that we were able to break down those age groups as well and have a look if there was any differences. So I will look at the overall data today. If you are interested in reading more about it and reading the breakdowns, please let me know, and I'll be really happy to share the whole report with you. But just for today, I wanted to pick out some really key findings and also look at how we can present our research. So as I said, I'll do a bit of both today. We'll be looking at the case studies, but also give you an idea of how we present this data, because this can be really helpful for you to share as well. So this was about what does brand authenticity mean to you? So this was a free text answer. We kind of said, what does it mean to you? Let people write what they want. And then from that, we're able to pick out the key trends from what people were saying and analyze them that way. So based on kind of reading through everyone's answers, we kind of picked out all the keywords that kept coming up. So we had all of these keywords on the side, which are generally honest, genuine, trusted, researched, quality, reputable, ethical, values, customer service, and a story, as well as some others, but obviously they were kind of too random to be able to categorize together. So it's really interesting, again, like I said, when you think about authentic, it means that we can now pinpoint that and say, okay, well, we need to be honest, because that's the thing that's coming up the most. How can we be honest as a brand? Well, we can say about, where we're getting all of our ingredients. We can say about how we're manufacturing the products. We can make sure that we've got evidence behind our claims, so we're not misleading the consumers in any way. So this is all things that the brands can start thinking about to be able to start developing them in terms of what the consumers want to see. Just a couple of other kind of stats from that as well. So how important is it to you that brands you buy are authentic? So obviously we're saying about authenticity, but is it actually important? With something that's getting thrown around a lot, is it? And yes, we did find that it was. So 88% of everyone said that they felt that it was really important, which is obviously a really high percentage. If you think about that on a larger scale of who your consumer is, it does show that there is a need for it. We can see that there was a slightly higher percentage with males and females, but both over 80%. And actually, we found that the older age bracket, so up over 35, did actually find that it was more important than the younger age bracket. So something interesting there. But overall, it was still a majority of people. So yeah, again, it is really important. We also looked at how people follow these cosmetic brands as well. As I said, we didn't want to just go, it's important to be authentic. And what does that mean? We also thought, okay, well, how are we going to communicate that? And again, this is just for the overall study. We did have breakdowns of different age groups and things, but I don't want to go too much into the detail today. And overall, it's completely Instagram was the main thing. I think that's not really shocking because it's a really great way to get to consumers. It's a really popular platform, particularly in the UK, which this was on at the time. So we can see kind of the different social media platforms there. I do think that if we conducted this again now, it might be slightly different. TikTok's become much more popular. This was very much at the beginning of TikTok, that it was only launched last year, or only got popular last year. So I think that we probably see some more there. Especially because I know that a lot more cosmetic brands have now utilized it as a platform since we conducted this research. So I guess the main thing about that is that it's always changing. So it's really important to make sure that if you're going to do social market research, it's always current. It's not something, in 5 years' time and go, oh, we can dig out that report and, sort of use that in our marketing again, because things could very much have changed. As I said about being in the information age, which we are, things are changing all the time. There's new social media platforms. There's things changing socially, culturally, all across the world, all the time. So it's really important to make sure you're being current and up to date. So how do we use this data? So obviously I'm not a cosmetic brand, but it gives you an idea of some reasons you might want to use it as well. So I collaborated with a consultant called Wiz Selvi on this, and we presented this data in a webinar ourselves. So basically looked at the different things that we got from the market research, but obviously brought it into the services that we're providing. So Wiz is a consultant that's looking at helping brands basically get on the market and utilize their brand messaging. So basically, yeah, making more of a story about their brand as we're talking about. It was really important for us to use this research for her because it's very important for her brands that they're getting their authentic stories across. And then I was very much looking at the consumers themselves and how we can present that research. And then Wiz also did a blog and a masterclass kind of off of the data that we found. So this was all from her website. So you can find the blog at that link there. It's quite interesting. I've just kind of pulled out the 3 steps that she's kind of given from the data. So step 1, how customers are researching your products. Step 2, assess what stands out when people research your products. And step 3, assess whether you're on the right social channels. So it just shows how much you can get out of this data and really utilize it and kind of get your messaging out there as well. Another kind of issue that came up a lot last year that a lot of brands were, and rightly so, on board with and really putting into their messaging. So definitely Black Lives Matter was a huge thing. And we did see a lot of brands across social media really communicating that they were standing by their consumers, that it is an issue that they're very passionate about. And it was great to see. But another kind of brand that's gone even further than that was Dove. And they got some social market research data about how it kind of worked with hair, because obviously they've got hair products. So 51% of Black adults have felt compelled to change or alter their hair as a result of hair discrimination. And they had some other data on the side there as well, some other kind of things from that research. And then they started talking about the Halo Code. So this is a kind of petition that's going around and something that they've signed as well, which is all to do about basically stopping hair discrimination for Black ethnicities, but also any other ethnicity that isn't, your classic Western hair, because especially, in the UK, and other countries like this, a lot of the hair product marketing is very much towards Caucasian hair. So it's really important to start opening up this dialogue and making sure that brands are recognizing it and making sure their marketing and their product development is surrounding it as well. So by using, again, this data, it's really pushing that message home and making it quite, this is a majority of people are feeling discriminated because they have a different hair type, which is something that brands really should be pushing against. So we did another case study which really spun off the back of everything that was happening about this kind of discrimination for different skin colors and hair colors and hair types. And this was the skin whitening products that we kind of picked up on in particular, because they have always had this kind of stigma about, obviously the idea of whitening your skin isn't a very good thing. It shouldn't be an issue. And we did see sort of big brands change the names of their whitening products to be more ethical. But what kind of question about that is, you can change the name of the product, but at the end of the day, the product's still doing the same thing. And is that okay? And is that why people are using these products as well? So we wanted to look at the opinions of people that use skin whitening products, find out why they use them, because obviously you don't want to jump the gun and sort of say it's because they feel discriminated. It's not always, and I'll go through the data a bit, but also think about how they feel about the industry. So even if they're not using it for that reason, what are their kind of opinions about it? So again, we had the participant profile. So we had a total of 590 people in total. We did this one obviously across different countries. This is really important with the skin whitening industry because obviously there are lots of different kind of reasons for using those products in different countries. So the UK, the USA, India, Japan, South Africa, and UAE are the countries we decided to go for this one. We had a smaller percentage of male participants on this. It was important that we were using female, and looking at kind of general market research beforehand, it's very weighted towards female people using the products, or females using the products. So that's really the information that we wanted to make sure it was really valid. Again, we did an age breakdown, kind of did a bit broader this time, but again, we were looking at kind of 2 age brackets to make sure we were getting some good feedback there. So overall, we looked at why people use whitening products. So the overwhelming kind of majority was saying it's to even out their skin tone. So a good amount of people said it's to look more beautiful, which again can be from evening out skin tone. It can be from fixing a skin problem. Some people wanted to look younger. Some people wanted to make their dark skin lighter. Other people wanted to help with specific skin problems, and others felt pressure to have a lighter skin tone. So some quite shocking results there in terms of making dark skin lighter and everything like that. But also, as I said, there are certain pigmentations that you can have if you've got darker skin, and the idea of evening that out doesn't necessarily mean that you're unhappy for having dark skin. It could just be you want to have an even complexion. So then we did another free text kind of answer, which actually brought out a lot of different results. So we had how do you view your skin without whitening products? Again, most people are saying uneven. So it really does push that a lot of people are using this for uneven skin tones. But then we had other things like dull, dark, unattractive, damaged, unconfident, old, dry, imperfect, normal. Some people just had normal skin after. Oily, which is quite interesting because I've run another market research after this, which I'll be happy to share results with after. And a lot of people are saying that it really dries their skin out using whitening products. So some people were using it to help with that oily skin. Lots of people saw lots of redness, freckles, which was a huge thing in Japan, where freckles are seen as quite unattractive, which is really interesting because I don't know if other people are in the UK here, but certainly in the UK, you want to have freckles. Rough skins and dirty as well. A lot of people said dirty. So again, that can be to do with pigmentation and freckles and things like that. So it really was some interesting results out of that. And again, we did a breakdown for each country and saw some really different results there. So again, how do we use this data? So for this one in particular, we really did it as we're doing a series of articles about it. So this is very much the first initial insight. So what's really important is, like I said, there were so many things that came out of those free texts, so many different opinions and everything like that. That then helps us develop the next market research survey to be able to go on to kind of look into it a bit deeper, get some more specific results, because when you start off doing social market research, you tend to cast out quite a wide net and really get a feel for feelings, because you don't want to bias people and say, do you feel like you don't like your dark skin or something like that, because you don't want to put that in people's mouths. You just want to find out what they do think about the products, why they do use them. Then that helps us develop the next kind of research. So yeah, we initially did an article about this. And yeah, we're going to do another one as well, following on from that. So we can see that as part of this article, and this is in TKS, by the way, if anyone wants to read it, so Technoscience. And it says the preliminary findings are presented with even skin tone and beautiful skin being the key drivers and not skin lightening or whitening. Care must be given to the choice of wording when it comes to creating claims for these types of products, and more consideration to the consumers who use them, providing for better claims compliance in terms of product honesty, fairness, and informed decision making. So I don't know if anyone knows Teresa Callahan, who I worked on this with, but she's a claims specialist. So we're really thinking about how it relates to claims in particular as well. So that's a summary for today. So looking at kind of what we've gone through, basically social market research is the best way to capture what drives your target consumers. Clear research objectives will guide your questionnaire design. So this is really important, like I said, about casting that net out wide. It's important to do that, but it's also really important to think, why are you conducting this research? So looking back to the authenticity questionnaire, it was really to say, what does authenticity mean to the consumer? And that's always the key research objective. We're trying to find out what they're going to say about it. And that really helps you kind of like pin, and also the research, how they're looking for that as well. So really important to have those clear objectives, because if you kind of go, oh, I want to find out why people buy my products, it's so wide, you kind of can't pinpoint it down. So it's more to go, why do people like the red lipstick over the purple lipstick or something like that? So you need to have really, really clear research objectives before you start. Otherwise, you're going to have so much data, it's going to be really impossible to get to remember what your message was that you were trying to kind of say and get that data behind it. A well-designed study and questionnaire is essential for valuable data. As I said, if you get kind of carried away, or if you don't say the right things, or if you lead into a bias as well, you kind of say, like I said, don't kind of lead people to say what you want them to say. Otherwise, you won't have very valuable data. There'll be no need. Funny enough, I'm doing a webinar next week with Thomas Marquardt, and we are going to be looking at questionnaire bias. So if this kind of leads you on to think you want to hear more about that, please join next week. You need to make the most of your research and share it everywhere. So it's all very well and good to get this really valuable data, but as you've seen, put it out on your social media, on your websites, everything. Get the message out there, use this data. And it can be an ongoing process as findings generate new objectives. So as I said, you kind of get those findings through and you go, actually, that's really interesting that people have said that. Let's look into that further. So never think of it as kind of like one kind of project and then you're going to close it. It's really good to have an open mind and think about how you can keep developing it, keep looking at those key consumers and everything like that, really. So just to finish up before I go to the questions for the end of the week, just want to say a little bit about Ayton Global Research. So really the main thing I want to pick out of this, some lists of our really good aspects, but I really want to pick up that we are a market research society partner. This is so important for things like social market research because we get full training for like study and questionnaire design, but also it's really important that we follow their code, which essentially means that our research is going to be ethical. And there's nothing more important than having ethical data when it comes to social market research, and particularly looking at different countries and things like that. There are certain countries that have really strict rules, and it's really important that you're using a kind of someone like us, hopefully, that really understands these rules. So you're not offending anyone or kind of dipping your toe where you shouldn't be, because it is kind of delicate when you're looking at the opinions of people. So any questions? It's quite a short webinar today, just to kind of give you an overview, really, more than anything. It's such a wide subject. So like I said, it's, you know, looking at social aspects and trends and things like this. It's just to kind of get you guys thinking really about how you can utilize it and start using it. But if you've got any particular questions, please feel free to ask. I can't see any coming in, but I will be sending out this webinar recording and it will have my contact details on it as well. So if you want to discuss something in particular, we can always move on to email. So I can't see any questions coming in. I don't want to hold you guys up. So I'll just kind of finish the last few slides. So upcoming webinars, as I mentioned, we've got questionnaire design next week, bias and implications. So we'll be really looking at, well, not just negating bias, because sometimes it can be really useful, but it's understanding it more than anything and what the implications can be. So yeah, there's going to be quite an interesting webinar, I think, and that'll be next week. And we'll also be looking at food and drink trends and claims the week after. So that kind of takes us to the end of the month. So if you've got any kind of food and drink products you're looking at developing, we can look at those trends and the claims that are being out there at the moment. Just to kind of put your attention towards the SCS as well. So the SCS have a diploma course, which is a recognised course in the essentials of cosmetic science. It's a distance learning course, so it can be done anywhere in the world at any time. And that's the link for it there. There's also going to be the IFSCC Congress in September 2022, and you can register your interest for that event already. I've just got a question coming, so I will quickly, I'll quickly answer that as well. So is there any way of accessing the colorism and cosmetic claims article? Absolutely. So I don't know if you have to be signed up. I think it is free, but what I'll do is I'll send out the link for it with the follow-up as well. So you should be able to access it through there. It is a really interesting article. Teresa mainly wrote the content. I was really providing the research, and she's a fantastic writer, and it would be a good one to register for anyway, because as I said, I think the next article we do is going to be even more insightful. But yes, I'm really happy to share that. So just to finish up as well, there's my contact information. Oh, thanks, thank you, Julie. So yeah, there's my contact information. As I said, I'm going to follow up on an email anyway. If there's anything else that you found interesting, feel free to email me. If you want to see more of the market research summaries we looked at, please let me know. And I hope that's been really helpful, and have a really great day. Thank you.